Hi there, I'm Clint. Welcome to the live stream. We'll be doing some portfolio reviews, paintovers, taking your live questions, and doing a $25 giveaway donated by qbrush.com. You can go out there and get some of their videos or art resources. So, welcome to the third live stream here on Swatches YouTube. Alright, we're going to just take it easy first couple of minutes like we normally do. Just let people kind of come in, and I want to double check all my settings, make sure everything's good here. As you can tell, I've changed up my setup here. I've got a video playing in the background just so when I'm talking you've got something else to watch aside just from my silly mug. So this is a paint over. It's already been done, like it says in the bottom. On this painting process is pre-recorded, but yeah, there's a little something you can follow there in the background. Hey guys, Pamela, first to be here. Nice to have you, Pamela. Kenna, Seraphin, Neil. Hey. Best channel on YouTube about illustration. Thank you. There are some really good ones out there. I'm glad you have shown up for mine. I wonder if there is some way that I can make this chat bigger. It's hard for me to keep up when it is that short. Let's see what I can do. Maybe not. Okay, Neil says, what do I got to do to have one of my character designs critiqued by you? Neil, okay, that's actually a good point. Just to remind everybody, if you want your portfolio or your image reviewed, then what you need to do is leave a comment in one of my YouTube videos, just any of them. I read all the comments, and put a link in there to your portfolio or your particular piece, and I will add that to the list, and I just choose them randomly. I use a random number generator to figure out which portfolio we're looking at, and that's the best way to do it. Aside from that, the only other way would be if you became a patron at the $30 level over on the Patreon, in which case I do critiques every month of a particular piece out there. Yeah. Lionheart, Oreo, hey, thanks for joining me. I got a baller voice. Well, thank you. Welcome. Judging from that intro, do you like the Caravan Palace? I'm sorry to say I do not know what you're talking about. It was just some retro music my friend Matthew drug up for me, and I liked it, so we used it. What are some of your favorite artists, Clint? Oh my gosh, okay, good question. What are some of my favorite artists? It depends the topic. I do have interest back in the old ones. I know like Sargent was a big thing back when I was doing more oil paintings, that sort of stuff. Actually, let's switch over to look at some of my folders of some of the artwork that I've saved. That's actually a good way to see some of the guys that I like. And I will jump over here to a desktop. I don't need that up there anymore. Thank you. Yeah, so this is my goodies folder, and this is where I just save a lot of reference and ideas and all kinds of stuff. Let's see, artists. I have individual artists, Adam Hughes. I think he has some really great art. If you're familiar with comic books, that is where he does most, if not all, of his work. And he's got a design that was so desired. People liked it so much that other people started basically copying his same style. And that's that. I can close this. This actually has to do with the challenge coming up for September's challenge on Patreon. We're going to be, I'll go into that a little bit later, but that's what that's all about. Yeah, Adam Hughes, I've loved his work, and he has a very graphical style to it. Uses really good dark shapes and a unique way of shading and coloring. So he is great. I love a lot of my other magic artists. I'm really inspired by them a lot. Cryptcrawler, also his real name is Brad Rigney. I love his work. Very realistic, highly refined stuff. Guys, he puts a ton of hours into these, probably well over 100 hours a piece. And that's the only way you can get this kind of realism and detail in these pieces. He has wonderful stuff. You can look him up either by his name, Brad Rigney, or Cryptcrawler. This is a newer piece he put up the other day. Yeah, just take a look at that. How awesome is that? Beautiful lighting, awesome execution, wonderful textures and all that stuff, highly realistic. Let's see, who else do we have? Kike Kotaki, loved his stuff. A little fresher, definitely more concept art style. And he did a lot of concept art for Guild Wars 2. I played that for a while. And he uses a lot of the black and white with color added in over top. I would suggest going out and taking a look at his stuff. He establishes a lot with a little. He has really refined a fast execution and the way, just the process of him working. So I love his. Of course, I mentioned him in the other stream, Kim Jung-ji. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's the guy that does no preliminary drawing and just inks these massively complex scenes straight from his mind because he understands how to think in 3D so well. So, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Maybe we'll talk about that more later. Some of my other magic guys, Tyler Jacobson, and he's out here. Chris Ron, I love his stuff. Of course, Brahm, I love his stuff as well. But okay, that's a pretty good rundown of the guys that I like. Get you back up on the chat here. Still don't see the super chat icon. I was actually working on that today, right? They have to review my channel before I can turn on anything that has to do with monetization. So it's in the process of being looked at, reviewed, I guess. They just have to make sure basically you're in good standing with YouTube. So hopefully next week we will have that up. And I did add Streamlabs. Donate is in the description. So hopefully that works. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, another live session. Pamela Kanachi. Shout out to Z's Lionhearts. Yeah. Okay. How many we got right here right now? 51. Awesome. Hey. Again, thank you very much for joining me, and this live stream really is made possible by my patrons, so if any of you guys are watching, I really appreciate it. They support this stream out on patreon.com/swatches, and that basically gives me the money to have the time to be out here doing this. So. And this will be recorded, and I'll be put up for reviewing later. What's my favorite color? I really like a aqua green. I've always loved that color, and that one I find very appealing. Just, favorite color. Love it. Do I age? Yes. I don't know how any way around that one. Yeah, I do, but I have been told recently that I age well, so that's always nice. Okay, well, we got plenty of people here, and it looks like all the settings are working fine, so let's find a portfolio to jump into, and we'll see if we can find a piece and start doing some paintovers. I just have to come back over here and find my list. Portfolios. Get that out of the way. And let's run random number generator. And we have how many? 128 portfolios. 128. All right, generate one for me, and that is 96. Okay, I just closed that window and I needed that. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna switch back over here. Yeah, and somebody did comment. You can set up shortcut keys to jump between these without actually having to go through OBS. I'm on it, I'm working on it, got a lot of stuff going on. But yes, I will eventually do that so I don't have to keep jumping between these screens. Okay, so this is just a random gallery somebody submitted to me. I don't know this fella, Dustin Lynch, but we have illustrations, pen and ink, graphic design, logos, and environments. So we'll top in illustrations, see what we have. One-time transformation of comic book hero. All right. Somebody driving a taxi. Okay. All right. Just try to go through fairly quickly at the beginning like I normally do, just to get an over idea of their style, their interest, and common themes, strengths, weaknesses over the whole thing. Okay, let's go back to work. Pen and ink, just a couple of the pen and inks. Okay. Graphic design, that really starts getting into something else. Logos, environments. So let's take a look. Okay, one environment. There we go. Okay, looks to me like this is somebody who probably has a big imagination but doesn't have much classical training. I say that because they are trying very difficult, imaginative stuff like this. It's a cool idea, but I think that there are more leaning on Photoshop techniques to sell the image, like the brush stuff in the background and more textures, and there is some lack of understanding about just basic anatomy. It's like some perspective stuff going on here. And they're not really sure how to handle various things. Like, everything still feels a little flat because they have a 2D way of thinking. And you can tell that they're not really understanding lighting. So if I were to recommend, just like if Dustin is on here listening right now, then I'd say what you probably need to do is go back to drawing from life more and studying accurate anatomy. I have nothing against something that is stylized, but I'm always going to recommend that you start by learning how to draw something realistically and accurately, and then learn how to stylize that. Unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they try to jump from nowhere without knowing that to basically copying someone's style, saying, oh, I like how so-and-so draws, and they start trying to learn how to do that. But the thing is, that person already learned how to stylize realism to get to that point. And now you're stylizing something stylized without understanding the steps that what they know in order to get there. So I would always say, go back, learn how to do it realistically, and then you'll know how to cut the corners or what things you can twist and stylize without losing something. In this case, there's a lack of 3D knowledge of the forms, which gives it a kind of flat appearance. And there are better ways, if you want to stylize this fellow, there are better ways to handle some of these shapes that you would know a little better if you knew the forms behind them. I would also say that there is an over-reliance on visual busyness, just like a lot of splattery stuff and textures, and just learn basic lighting. Take some courses, watch some videos, read some books on what lighting is. Here, like, he's trying to establish form, but you can tell that the lights and the darks are haphazard. They're not really consistent. Like, there's kind of a light on the top here and kind of on the side here, but the lighting on pieces of the face don't equate to other parts of the face. Like, there should be a shadow under there if there's actually a light coming down. But there's a shadow coming across here, like there's a light over here, but that isn't reflective on this because that would be lit if there's a light over here. And none of the lighting here matches anything with the hand. And none of the lighting on the hand or the face matches what's on the gun. So that's really where you can see there's just an internal inconsistency of understanding how the pieces relate to each other. And that happens when you're not thinking about them in a three-dimensional context of working together in a scene. So go back to studying that sort of stuff. This sort of stuff, like, it's not worth me trying to go do a paint over of this because I'm not going to try to copy his style, and I'm going to have to get into doing line work and color the line work, and that's something else. There are ways to do line work really well, and there are ways to do painting really well. And this one feels like he's trying to ride the line between the two, which really gives you the worst of both. So let's pull over here and take a look at, let's see, swatches, go up to goodies. Maybe under styles or anime will give me something that, like, I'm gonna talk about. Like, this has line work in it. You can still see a lot of the lines in this. However, it is very clean. It's very professional. So lines are not bad. It's a stylized thing. This too, there's still all the lines in there, and you can tell that they added the colors and the paints under the lines. But it's very professional. It's very clean. He knows what he's trying to go for this style. This one doesn't feel like that. That feels like basically a comic book that he's trying to make realistic, but he's still over-relying on the lines in order to sell it because he doesn't know how to sell it without the lines in it. Okay. All right, let's take a couple of questions. Looking back at the video from last week, I just wanted to do a couple of things differently. I took a lot of questions, very few portfolios of Paintovers. I just want to switch back and forth more this evening, just so you know how I'm going to kind of approach this. Skipping back here, I am going to miss somebody's questions. I just can't keep up with all of these coming through, so I'm going to be a little more choosy this time. Hey, Jason, glad you finally made it to a live stream. Good to have you. Yeah, all right. We got. Can I comment on how beginners can improve on rendering to make pieces more realistic? Okay, beginners, how to improve on rendering to make pieces more realistic. Again, I'm going to say studying realism. And I know that sounds kind of bizarre, but a lot of people try to make things realistic without either having studied realism or having a good reference to reference against. And that really is why things look real, because that's the way things actually look. So have decent references, that will help. And learn, realism has to do with a couple of things. Like one is how lighting behaves, how surfacing behaves, and the accuracy of, I would say, the drawing aspect. That is the things like the proportions, the forms, how the sizes relate to each other, things like perspective. It is so that everything is placed at the right size and the right place in the scene. Then you have to talk about things like I said, like the colors, the lighting, and how those behave. So study on those parts and make sure that you have good references if you don't know those subjects really, really well. And take the time to actually do some longer pieces, do some studies from life. See how accurate you can actually get to a subject matter. And if you really take the time to study it, then it can help you pick up on things that you normally wouldn't remember to put in if you're just doing it from memory. Can somebody inform me where I can submit a portfolio for review? Nick, all you need to do is leave a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and I will add it to the list for possible consideration. I might randomly choose it next time. Yeah, leave a link to whatever your online gallery is. That's what I mean. Yeah. Jason asks, hey Clint, can you tell us what fundamentals study that upon you discovering it made you start improving the most significantly? Good question. All right, that's going to take me a second to think about. What fundamental study made me start improving the most significantly? I know that when I first started learning perspective, that made a big deal. I was no longer guessing how big things are supposed to be in relation to each other. I finally understood how to put all my pieces in the scene together and it be accurate to each other. So that made a really big that made a really big change very quickly in my art. And I think once I started to understand like basic human proportions and I memorized the proportions of the head, then that also made a big deal. Color and lighting it made a big change, but they're a lot longer to learn. They're much slower to learn in that process. How and when do we submit portfolios for you to critique? Anytime, on any video, at any point in the week. I will read all of those submitted and I will add them in. Let me move down a little bit. Yeah, people are going to keep asking that, and if you don't mind answering their questions, because people are going to keep coming in and they're going to ask that same question several times. Jericho is, how many hours till the deadline for the Alice in Neon challenge hits? The deadline is tomorrow midnight. So they have, 18 hours or so. About 30 hours or so. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've only seen a couple of the work in progress. And once they start sending them in, then next week we'll be doing a live stream with just my patrons, going over the finals, and then we'll compile those together into the proper Alice in Neon video with all the effects and the sound and all that sort of thing. Pamela asks, how often do I use the dodge tool? I use the dodge tool quite a bit. I find it a very useful tool for handling basically a very quick exposure change of whatever it is. I changed up the shortcut keys so I can use it very quickly. Do you ever think you showed your 10-year-old self the art you made today, that he would be super happy that he made that? Neil, yes, I think I would be. I think I would be pretty pleased with some of the work that I've done if I could show my past self. He'd be pretty jazzed that he got to grow up to do this sort of work and, having someone pay for it. that he could keep doing it and didn't get some boring desk job at some company he didn't care about. Okay, let's pause it there and pull up another portfolio. I'm just going to generate another number, and we get 57, which brings us to the portfolio of Draw Crowd. Let me just make sure it's an accurate link. Sometimes they close the link by the time I ever get there. Pull that up. Hopefully he'll have a good piece out here. I feel like doing a paint over. So let's see if we can find a good one to do some paint overs of. Okay, let's switch over. Sweet. Okay, so this is the work of Michael Cristo. Don't know him personally, but we've got 8 images out here. Hopefully I can just click on these, yes, and get a larger version. Excellent. All right. It looks like these are probably personal characters. Old mage fella. Okay. And I can go through these like this. All right. Again, let's flip through these and just kind of see what we get. If I remember right, it's actually better if I put it up here a little bit. I'm not a big fan, okay, just offhand, I'm not a big fan of this gallery because it puts all this stuff over here and this stuff in the background. I'd prefer if you'd found something maybe a little more clean. If you want a good free gallery, go out to artstation.com. It's free, very professional. It's likely people aren't going to just randomly come across your gallery because it really filters just the high-end stuff to the top. But it is a nice site to refer people to go see your stuff, and I think it has better functionality and browsing than this does. So that's just one quick comment on this. Okay. Okay, now that I have an overview, let's go through here and just, oh, wow, it wants me to sign up. Okay, no, I really prefer not to, thank you. Can we just, no, you don't want me to do that. All right. Can we just go to his gallery, please? Yeah, I will affirm that. Again, not the best site to host a gallery. Okay. Oh, let's talk about a couple of things that are catching my attention. The character design overall, not a big problem with that. I think that is probably one of the strengths. He's got some good shapes. He's got different patterns going on. It's obviously he has a particular vision for this character, and that's good. There is some, let's just start looking at some of the problems though. One is understanding the viewpoint. Like, we're looking down on his feet and down on the bottom half of this image, yet we're seeing the underside of his pants on the backside. That is only possible if we're looking up at them, which that's really weird. It's like we're looking up at the bottom of his pants but down on his feet. So there's a misunderstanding about how perspective works right there. This cape, I'd really prefer if he did something more realistic with the cape. Like, I don't understand how it flips out like that. When I see a shape like that has no folds, no bends, no curves, no waves, it makes me think it's an actual solid shape. So I would suggest studying some folds, because some of these need different folds. It wouldn't fold quite like that. This one's, he saw this out a little bit, how it would bend down here and kind of pucker up. That's okay. But this is going to have some bends in it in kind of U shapes coming down. And then this will have a different fold to it. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, some of these scenes, I like that he's going for a scene and not just a standard, one character, but I don't have enough context about what's going on. I would appreciate if he would help fill me in as a viewer a little bit more. I would become more interested if you filled in some of these gaps for me, because right now this seems so random that I really can't get invested in the scene. If you took this hand out, it would actually make this seem, more relatable. Like some, zealot dude coming after this priest. Okay, well, I don't really know why, but all right. Then you just put this random hand up here. It's like the hand of God coming to protect him. There's a line there between leaving some questions that lead and intrigue your viewer, something that makes them think. And then there's other times it just kind of seems you just didn't quite know what you're doing, and it just makes me wonder, in not a good way. And that's sort of where we are here. A lot of space here not being really utilized. You're just burning space. Nothing in any of this has given me any context to what's going on in the scene. And that's something that really could be utilized. You're not optimizing the space in the scene to give me any additional information. Okay, so I was, something about a reflection of her when she's old. If it is a reflection, then, in this case, I would appreciate seeing a water effect, or it's a mirror on the ground, or it's a piece of shiny metal, or tell me why that's down there. Or if you want to just do an image, you could almost do like a playing card where you have one head this way and one head that way, and they're kind of spliced together, and you make it more of a graphical arrangement if you're not going to make it a proper scene and tell me more about it. Again, it's just wasted space. There's sometimes that you can put ambiguous, foggy backgrounds and it adds to the atmosphere, but I don't feel like that's necessarily what he's trying to do. I think he's just not adding, more to it. I do like the effect. I think he's got a good old age here, and I feel like this is actually better than the young one. This one has a more realistic lighting and a more dramatic lighting, and the lighting on her just seems a lot duller. Like all of her skin is just so grayed out, and her hair seems really puffy. So if I were to suggest in this one, is give me where the edge is of this water. And you don't have to totally distort it. Just put a couple of little wavy lines, little distortion in there. And then might want to play with the lighting on this. And a simple way to do that would be to perhaps make her warmer, like a warmer light is hitting her, make the background a little bit cooler so that there is a difference between the two. And then essentially it's opposite here, so that she would be warm and the background would be cool up here. And then back here, the background is warm and she's a bit cooler because she's duller, right? And that would probably work a little better. Okay, again, kind of back to what I said earlier. I think this scene could actually be interesting, but there's just not enough context for me to care about it. And again, a lot of just wasted space. I don't know, is she as big as a mountain? Or these mountains? Is this just ground? Because if you could put me, I don't even know what time period this is. The dress is very ambiguous, and there needs to be a second read. Now, I'm not trying to be hard on Michael here, but I'm saying this stuff because, maybe you guys can see the same thing in your own artwork. And I'm just looking at it as if you handed this to me, what would I do to try to improve it? Well, for one, I would figure out what the context is. What is the story? What is the narrative here? What is the feeling that's trying to be crossed here? Now, she has a feeling of worry, concerned, disheartened, scared. I'm not sure what the emotion is here, but he needs to figure out what that is and try to double down on that and use the rest of the scene to do it. If she's supposed to be more threatened, then we need to use a more threatening light, because this sort of sunrise lighting, sunset lighting, it's a very comforting, feel-good light and not a dramatic, suspenseful one. So maybe we need to switch the lighting to try to convey that emotion a little better. Something that's a little harsher, something that's darker. And can we change the background so it tells me more about the narrative? What time period is she? Is she in the woods? What size is she? Like I said, this looks kind of like a mountain. But if she's regular size, then maybe you just give me some grass, just to let me have some context. And is this thing physically there, or is this thing some sort of, spiritual manifestation? If it is incorporeal, then, do some glowing effects so let me see through it somehow. So just, clarify what the narrative of this scene is, and then all of a sudden I'm going to care a lot more about it. Again, a lot of the same things. It just seems random at this point. And I feel like he's trying to go for a scene, like, is he fighting these things? Because it doesn't look like he's really trying to fight back against them. But it looks like this guy's trying to fight him. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, mainly, it's like this one actually has some decent lighting. It's more interesting, at least. Some of the rendering here is decent. He's got some different textures going on. Again, I'd like a little better story. Okay. Well, let's hop back, take a look at some of your questions. Trying to scroll down. It takes it a second to load all the new ones in. Can I get some Photoshop tips? Phone alarm, hang on. There we go. Can I get some Photoshop tips related to brush strokes? Well, I can run through that. Well, you know what? Honestly, just pull up a video on setting custom brush settings for Photoshop. I've gone through it some on color changing brush, but it's really nothing more complicated than make sure you're using a stylus pad with a pen that's pressure sensitive, and using a program like Photoshop that recognizes that, and having the pressure sensitivity turned on for the opacity so that you can get the opacity change from your brush. But otherwise, I don't really do anything fancier than that. Honestly, most of the time I'm using a regular round brush to sketch with. So, yeah. There's plenty of videos out there just how to set custom settings on your brush. I love your stuff. I had no idea you have a Patreon, so I'm going to support you there. Snow Mew, we're running a special this month, doing some special bonuses. So this month, if you are interested in becoming a patron, is probably the best month for a couple of more months, because anybody that becomes a patron for September is going to get a signed 8x10 mailed to you. It will be one of my art prints. I will sign that and I'll get it to you, even for $1. And I also have to plug that I made this. It is the commission flowchart poster. If you sign up for the $10, this will be a bonus. You will get all of the normal rewards, plus I will ship you this. And this is basically a flowchart taking you all the way through an art commission and the choices that you have to make and things to consider, and it's got useful notes to it. It's fun, it's useful. And, you know, you can go out there. And you can see the link on your screen. It's patreon.com/swatches. Yeah. Could I describe some of the more important aspects of portfolio that art directors for Magic the Gathering look for? I would say quality is the main thing. They do like to know that you can paint fantasy. So I suggest probably not a lot of fan art. Show that you can do some original stuff. Show that you can handle doing realism, that you can do more detailed and refined things, and show that you can handle different situations. Like, you don't just have all of your images with a front basic lighting on it, because most of the time that's not what they're going to give you. So let them see that you can do a variety of lightings, a variety of moods, and that's good. Let's see, other things to look for. Yeah, it really is just quality. They don't really care where you went to school. They don't really care necessarily even if you've had a lot of experience. But if you can just do the work, then that's great. Do I consider Yashar says, do I consider myself a fast artist? Not really. I'm faster than I used to be, but no, because I don't do a lot of concept art. Concept artist, or if you do a lot of concept art, it has a tendency to speed you up a lot, and that's not what I go for. I don't value speed over everything else. Can I talk about the importance of speed when working for a client like Magic? Well, speed is part of the equation. If you're working for a living, whether you're working for Magic or whoever, the more commissions you do, the more money you get paid. So, you know, you make a better living. So that is an issue. They don't really care how long it takes you to do it if you have good quality. So if you can do it faster and still have the same amount of quality, then sure, just do that. And I would say at the beginning, it's going to take you longer. It just is. I probably work 40, 60% faster now than I used to. I have a lot less trial and error because I'm used to the processes, and I know some approaches like, okay, sketch with lines, then do black and white, then add color, then do the final painting on top of that. So once you get used to those processes, you can not have to worry about it so much over time. Okay, let's back up, take a couple of more, and maybe we'll look at one more portfolio. I'm probably not going to go the full 2 hours like I did last time. I've got a couple of things I need to get to later, just to let you know that. Okay. Do I calibrate my monitor? No, I don't. I've found that it's been pretty accurate so far, and I haven't really come across the need to calibrate it. But if I'm not going to say it's a bad idea. If you're certainly doing a lot of printing, I'm not doing a lot of printing right now, and that's usually where you do want to calibrate it. Do I use multiple layers? Fido asks, do I use multiple layers in my artwork all the time, or have you ever just used a single layer? I have used a single layer painting process before, but I usually do have numerous layers. Yeah. I try to keep it fairly reasonable, though. I don't want to just a new layer for every single little object. If I can group them together, then I will. Or something I actually do a lot with Photoshop is I will make even like you can see in this background video playing, I make folders and I will just group them into the folders, and that really helps keep me, keeps them handled easier. Do I have interest in concept design work? What about working in comics? Are you happy with the illustration? Yes, I have interest and have done some concept design work. The thing about a lot of concept art is those are usually done years ahead of whenever the project is released. So I've actually done concept art for Magic like 2 years ago, but we still haven't caught up with that set yet. So I haven't been able to share that with anyone. I also did some concept art for a movie pitch years ago, and that wasn't released. So I haven't been able to show that. But yes, I do love the idea of concept art. I've thought about trying to switch over to doing more high-end video games and movies rather than doing so much illustration, but I'm happy with both of them. Nikita asks, wanted to ask, compositional meshes and grids are an important tool in building a scene or an optional thing? Compositional meshes and grids. I assume you're talking about like compositional helps to figure out where to arrange things. And I would say, yeah, there's certainly a tool worth considering. I usually work out that sort of stuff sort of just in my thumbnails. I'll try to keep it on thirds or quarters or centered or whatever. But they are worth something looking into. And if they help to arrange you a good composition, then that's fine. You can get the Divine Proportion. You've probably seen it before. It's kind of like a rectangle and it has a nautilus shell design in it. And you can put that over your image and that can help lay out stuff. I've used that before. What's your way of working on effects in your illustration? I've been set to use chromatic aberration, which work well, but I don't want to rely on only one technique. Working on effects in your illustration. I assume you're talking like magic effects, like lighting, special lighting effects in the scene. That is really dependent on what particular image I'm working on. I would caution you against the chromatic aberration, though. It's sort of, I want to say it's faux pas in a lot of places. It's kind of like just running a Photoshop filter on something and saying like, oh, look, how clever. It doesn't necessarily make it look better. Yeah, I was actually talking to some other artists about that, and they're like, what does this do with chromatic aberration? I mean, it doesn't exactly improve an image. It actually misaligns the colors. So, honestly, the best way to approach that, I like that question. I like the question of addressing effects, lighting effects. But I think that would actually make for a really good standalone episode, or maybe I could cover that in a later live stream where I have all my stuff together and we could properly look at that. Okay, let's take a look at another one. I'll pause the questions there and pull up another question. You know what? Right now, let's go ahead and do the giveaway before I forget. So, QBrush.com has donated another $25 of QBrush dollars so that you can go out there to their website and buy whatever videos or art resources. They have stock photo packs, educational videos, brushes, all these sorts of things, and they will be giving that away. And I'll do what I did last time. I'm gonna just randomly close my eyes, go through the comment section, and whichever comment comes out on top, that person is going to win. So I will randomly go through here, stop right there, and the person at the top is Federico Rivarola. Federico, you have won the $25 QBrush, and all you need to do is send me a personal message and give me your email address, and I will put you in touch with Sarah over at QBrush, and she will hook you up with your dollars. Yeah, congratulations, Federico. I appreciate you joining me and winning that. And again, QBrush.com. If you other guys have not gone out there And obviously you didn't win, but there is free stuff out there, and you can sign up, become a member, and they will send you a weekly email with free stuff of that week. So it's a nice way to find some stuff. And there are some really good photo packs that are for free out there. So you go out there and take a look at those. Yeah, just don't forget to send me that message, because if I do not get that from you probably by tomorrow or so, then I'll find somebody else to give it to. All right, I will find another portfolio for us to take a look at. 46. No, we've already done that one. I think I'm gonna move that over. Let me copy that, and we'll pull over here. Okay, let's take a look at the work of Sam Muck1R1. This is, like I mentioned, this is ArtStation. I think this is a more presentable website to do gallery hosting on. I also have a whole mix of stuff, a good collection of images here. So let's flip through a couple of these and see what we're working with. The ones up here on the top left will be the most recent. Okay. Here are all the villains I did for the ArtStation Beyond Human Challenge. Okay, yeah, this is something else you guys might be interested in, is ArtStation does have challenges. I forget exactly how often it is, but they're fairly often, and they will set an outline for the challenge, and you know, you got to create stuff, and you can get some cool prizes, and it's not a bad way to get the attention of companies, because I do know people over, you know, art directors and that sort of people in decision-making positions will go out there and look at various challenges to see if any up-and-comers are doing good work that they might be interested in. So I like this. I don't know what the outline was for these characters, but take a look at some of these good designs. Okay, first thing that catches me is they all have completely different silhouettes and body types. That's fantastic. Good decisions on that. I like big and beefy here. Taller and slim. Look at that, very clean silhouette. This one has a different silhouette. They all have different silhouettes. And they all have just different, like floating here on his feet. They're floating, but a different bottom. This one has spiky bottom. That one has more of a flat bottom. These orbs up around here. But they all feel like they exist in the same universe, which is good. And he's keeping a more limited color scheme. And that's a good decision too. So like the only one that stands out is this one has a lot more blue than the other ones. She has some blue. He has a lot more. But basically sticking with the white, black, gold, and blue with just a red accent. And that's a pretty good decision. Yeah. Okay, we got some individuals of them down here. That's cool. I like this guy's head with like the red helmet. The design it. That's pretty neat. Hovering arms. All right, so he's got made some really good character design decisions here. Mixing, I don't know, old style of like swords and armor with new tech. Okay, and that's cool. Here are the heroes that, okay, one side's heroes and one side's villains. Again, consistent look, like they feel like they're part of the same world. And it's obvious that he put a lot of time into these. And okay, so let's talk about, I've already talked about some of the good qualities of these. Some of the things, if he wanted to think about improving them, and I think it's probably because this is a massive amount of work. So if he had more time, I'm sure he would spend more time and refine them. But if he wanted to go back and do some more work on these, what would you do? I would say probably some of the textures. The textures are all feeling fairly monotonous, like the plastic, the fabric, the metal, all has a very similar finish to it. And that could probably be changed up. Even the skin is a little washed out on these. But this is concept art, so I'm less stressful about, you know, how good the finish is on a concept piece. I like them. I like a lot of these. Very graphical. Good use of the white and black interplay with just pops of color in it. Again, something to learn from this is that you don't need to use all the colors in the crayon box. You can just use a handful of them, and then it's probably going to make your piece even stronger. Yeah, good stuff. Okay. That one almost feels like it's getting too busy for me. There's a lot of different pieces going on there. You've got like a dragonfly iridescent thing going on with the cape and this, and with shiny gold and bright red. And so you've got bright red and purple and green and black and gold. I think that's probably a bit too much. If he just took one of those out, one or two of those out, probably would have helped it a little bit. But it might have been part of the outline that he had to have all that. So we'll see. Okay, these are completely different. Let's take a look at some of these guys. Ships. Cool. Good perspective on them. Good forms. I like these. There's some good designs down here. Something a little different there. A big scene. Seems like a different painting style. So up here he's got definitely more of a concept art style to it. Something he might think about for this and to quicken the painting process is to minimize how much direct light. Let's pull over here and let's take a look at some of these references that I've saved. Then I'll go out there and look at these in order to try to help me. Let's see, lighting, colors. I can't remember where it is exactly. Let's go down through some of these to see where they are. These are just all these different files that I've saved for different lighting situations that kind of remind me to just consider different setups. Where are the ones I'm thinking about? Might be under characters. Like, okay, this is one approach. See, he has a very limited value range on this. It's an interesting lighting, but what you see here is that he's really limited the value range of the shadowed side of him. And still enough to tell the forms, but it's much faster to paint this way because you're not having to use the full range of value on every single part of the image. And that's one of the problems here is he has light to dark and full lighting on everybody. If he had backlit these guys like Hellboy is here, then he could actually paint them faster, and I think it would probably give a better ambience to the image. It's still not the one I was thinking of. There's some other ones. There's a particular artist that does it really well, and unfortunately I cannot remember his name, or I would look it up. Like here, this fella does it really good. That it's a very, what you call like a north light. It's a very soft light. It's very diffused. And because it's diffused, there's no lights. There's no highlights. And so you have to paint in a smaller value range, which makes the painting process faster. I've started doing that with my own work a lot, either diffusing the light or backlighting it in order to quicken the painting process. You can cover more ground faster, and instead of using the lighting to tell the difference between the different objects, you can do it with more of the colors and the textures of the objects themselves. That's something I would probably tell him. His ideas are good, the shapes are good, the designs are good. So possibly with the execution, by just adjusting how he lights the scene, that he could get more time to refine it by making that adjustment. Yeah. Okay, let me pull back up. I'm trying to catch up with the Kayam, you spent $200 on QBrush. I've spent a decent amount of money out there myself. There is some really good content. I mean, of course, I sell my videos out there, so I've used it from the seller's side, and I've been very happy with it. And I've bought a dozen different products out there myself, and I've been very happy with the quality and how it works. So I'm happy with both sides of it. That's why I don't have any problem working with QBrush and supporting them. When will the next stream be? I'm going to be sticking with Mondays. So Mondays, 6 p.m. is working out really well for me. So that's when I plan for the next stream to be. Michael says, I'm an excellent artist, but my work is slowed because I'm a perfectionist. Any tips on overcoming this? Yeah, work with more deadlines. You start becoming less of a perfectionist the more deadlines you have to meet. And I used to be a real perfectionist, but one of the reasons that I stopped doing that was because the emotional strain. I wouldn't give myself any grace, I wouldn't give myself any room to kind of screw up or to even experiment, because I wanted even my experiments to turn out right and everything had to be perfect. And so there's a really good point to hold yourself up to a level, but then there's a point that beyond that level, there's just not enough payoff for the time and the strain to get that extra 5%. So I would suggest figuring out where that line is for you so that you're getting the most out of it and you're still pushing yourself without really just becoming a burden to you, because being too perfectionist can become a burden and actually hold you back from experimenting and hold you back from working a little faster so you can learn more quicker. A couple of other ideas for being a perfectionist. There is a practice that you can do that I've mentioned before. I'll mention it again because it sort of helped me. I think one of the things that I got into the mind frame of when I was thinking about trying to be a perfectionist is I was trying to put in too much detail. I thought of perfectionism as something where it has to be perfect in all the details just like the original, but that's not it. It's like, so what you can do is get a reference image, probably just a landscape. If you don't have time to paint a person this way, but get a landscape image, decent clear photo, and paint it with 10 minutes and do the best you can, or 15 minutes, do 15 minutes, and then cool down for a couple of minutes and then paint it again in 10 minutes. cool down for a couple of minutes, paint it again in 5 minutes. And this is a good way to just break you from thinking that you have to put everything in and it has to be perfect. That is, it has to be exactly like the original. And you'll start focusing on what is more important, which is just establishing the right color, the right placement, and the right values. And you'll learn that perfection is not looking like a photo. Perfection is establishing the right things first. But if you're talking about you have a certain vision for a piece and you're trying to achieve that, and that's you're holding yourself to that specific vision, then that is kind of something else. And that one's a little. I'm actually going to encourage you to kind of keep fighting to try to catch that vision. That is something worth fighting for. Do I have any tips on ArtStation layout itself? Is it good to group similar images? Should custom thumbnails have a certain info on them? I haven't really thought about that. I would say that thumbnails that get the most views generally don't show the whole scene. So if it's like a full character, just probably doing a head and shoulders crop of the character, and that tends to get a couple more clicks and views. Aside from that, I would say if they are very similar and part of the same project, probably not even doing individual posts like he did on his heroes and villains post. He put all of the heroes in one post and all of the villains in the other post, and not doing 5 images, 5 individual images, so you can group them together like that. ArtStation allows you to have multiple image per gallery post, unlike most other galleries. Okay, looks like most of the questions. Let me just double check here. Yes, just in the future, remember, you do need to comment. I need to be able to see your name out here for you to actually win. If you're just sitting there quietly, you're not going to win. All right, let's pull up another one and take a look. Remember, if you want your questions answered, this is the time to do it. So feel free to just put them out there, and I will try to get to as many as I can. Number 8. Check this. All right, for some reason that did not copyright. Just a second, guys. We'll get it in here. Okay, we have Eric Viola. Eric Viola. All right, so what we have: characters, comics, backgrounds, world design, matte paintings, keyframes of film and animation, creature designs. All right, a lot of different stuff. So let's just start up here with characters and see what we have. Okay, a lot of colors going on there. The lighting is not as useful as it could be, but I like the character. I like that there is a lot of dynamic to it. It's good. Can I just hit right? Yeah, okay, that's much easier. Those thumbnails are really small. Okay. All right, some 3D work. Okay. Some studies. Okay. Let's go back. What else do we have? I'm not going to go through all of these. We don't really have enough time for that. Looks like he has a lot of stuff. I am kind of interested in the world design, though. So what do we have here? All right, just a big landscape. Some mushrooms. Buildings. Okay. Yeah, we'll do a paint over. We'll grab one of these and we'll do a paint over. I'm just interested in this. This looks kind of cool. Alright. Like a Sim City sort of thing. 3D, sort of out of my wheelhouse. So, creature design, though, we'll take a look at that. Looks like we have a little bit on this ice creature. Playing around with some variations there. I think maybe in this case, one of the things he could have played around with was more variation with the legs, like making the front legs really massive and really small back legs, really massive back legs and little small front legs, or some of them have, you know, 6 legs, or maybe one of them has a tail. So I think there's some more designs there that weren't really considered, but maybe he went through those and figured out that he just wanted 4 legs and no tail, and that's fine. But that's something, if I was handed to me, I would consider. I like the execution on these though, the ice and the snow on them and just a rock underneath. That's pretty cool. Got trees all up on them. It's a walking mountain. Yeah. I think maybe a different approach to the rock down here. Like, this seems so curvy and organic, and it seems like everything else is trying to go for something harsher. So maybe like almost like The Thing. It's like big boulders basically being held together. Instead, it looks like this is flexible. It looks like this is just one big flexible rock. Where if it was kind of segmented, then I could think that these things could kind of bend. You know, that the pieces could just kind of rotate around each other. Yeah. Something to consider. Yeah, not wrong, but something to think about on that case. All right, let's go up here and pull open this character and take a look at what some options can be. Okay, let's Photoshop. And can I just drag you over there? Nope, need a new one. Okay, so a couple of things I'm looking at is there's a lot going on here, and more isn't always better. So what I want to do is refocus our attention and figure out what we want the attention to be on, rather than just kind of spread across everything. Now, I say that because we have, I'll make a new layer and pick an orange here, that'll show up. Okay. So I just want to highlight some things. So we have like greens and blues and oranges and yellows, browns, purples, whites, blacks, turquoise, violet. We have like everything on here. So that's a lot going on. Not necessarily good. And we've got bright lights here. We have the lights here. We've got this light effect. We've got this light effect. We've got a glowing sort of thing here. We got lights down here. We've got glowing lights on these. This has got lots of little shiny bits on that. We've got lights coming off of his eyes. So it just has a lot of elements going on, and we need to pick some to really focus. So I would say the focus needs to be right up here. It's the guy's face because he's a character and we want to connect with him. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. Honestly, guys, I don't know how some of these streamers do it. I mean, I'll follow some streamers on YouTube, and they guys stream for like 5 hours, and their voice just never cracks. I do it for an hour and a half. My voice gets so dry. Anyway, we light up here. So let's look at this and figure out something we can do here. I'm going to start by doing a color layer. I want to just adjust the color scheme so it is a little more consistent, a little more simplified. Okay. This effect here and here, I don't think we need to get rid of it, but I think it needs to be more consistent. So it's kind of a Aurora Borealis thing going on here. One of the inconsistencies that I'm seeing is it's mainly blue and green light, but it's shining purple on the armor. So if we can make that a little more consistent, I'm going to kind of sample this. And so I need everything being lit by that blue-green light to actually be blue-green. That would make more sense, right? Unless we want it to be warm. You know, this is warm and this light effect down here is cool. That could work too. No, I'm curious. I actually want to do that. I'm going to see if that wouldn't work a little better. So we're going to get the eye magic and hand magic and make those consistent. We're going to tie those together. And so we're going to have that going on here. Making it more yellow in the middle and letting it drift off to being a little duller on the outside. Okay. And then I'm going to grab some of this blue tone and everything not being very lit by that warm light is going to take on the ambient coolness of the scene. So all this stuff out here can be cool. Okay. Then the warm light, I want to double down on up here. All this stuff is getting warmer. I wonder if I hit a little more red. Yeah. Okay. Now we've got a sort of warm effect coming on this sword. And that's okay. We can have... Man, I almost want the sword itself to be glowing. But I don't know that we need another light source down there. I think as a compromise, we can add a... grab that same sort of orange tone. And we can add like a light coming down the center of the blade. So... I'll come back. I just want to put that in there to remind myself about it. Okay, so that is a little adjustment with the color. To find that just a little bit more. And then we can have basically that warm light shifting through the violet range in order to get to the cooler range. Yeah. Otherwise, there was a really big jump between the warm and the cool. And if we stair step through the spectrum, then we can get down there a little better. Yeah. Okay. Now, with a basic idea of the color scheme going on, no, one more change here. Let's switch from the violet to a little more cyan, a little more green. And... saturation. It's down here. I just want to lower the saturation on everything in the bottom half. So I made a new saturation change level. And I will use a gradient on the mask in order to mask off the top part. And it just dulls down the bottom of it a little bit. I don't want them to be exactly even. I want the top half to be just a little warmer or a little more vibrant than the bottom half. I might adjust that later, but okay. Now, let's take a look at correcting some of the values. We want the lighting right now, because the warm is up here and it's the most vibrant, it's going to pull your attention up there. We also want to play with the values in order to try to strengthen the scene with those. Now, right now, the lighting is not, it's pretty interesting up here. Now, I think we want to run with that, but this isn't working real well down here. One of the things that I like to think about is the light against dark, dark against light. I say that a bunch of times. In this case, what I'm thinking is this is showing up because it's lighter than the background. But this, I think, would do a little better if it showed up because it was darker than the background. So I made a new layer, and I'm going to just set that, I'll set it to normal. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to let this, I need that back more past. I'm going to use a dark tone and shade over this, basically putting this in shadow. I don't want to get rid of all that detail that he put in there. There's some good detail in there, information. And like I said before, you want a second read, that is a second level of detail in the image, so people will look at it longer. And back here, I think that cloak can probably be more silhouette. I'm going to tone down all the lights here. We don't need lights on the bottom half competing in brightness against the lights on the top half. One needs to be superior to the other one. So I'm going to tone down all the lights here. Now we can go back and add some back in a bit later if we need to. But for right now, we need to simplify and create a value hierarchy in the image. Toning those down, toning those down. Now this is a really good piece to do a paint over with. I think we'll get a good payoff. It's like that could be shadowed there. All right, so that just makes it look a lot duller, but now what we can do is come back here. There's several ways to do it. What I want to do is brighten some of the background behind him so that he stands out better, and we can do it either by just hand painting it, but I'm going to try doing a linear dodge layer, and I'll pick a big fuzzier brush, and then I'll cut into it. Let's try that. And since the bottom half we want cooler, we can treat like there's a glow back there. Now I'm painting more than what I need, and then what I'll do is just put a mask on it. So I use mask a lot in my painting process, and you can just go on the mask, you paint with black, and there we go. There's a lot of ways to go about doing that same similar thing, but you can change it up. So now that there's more value in this image. It's more interesting because there's light against dark, dark against light. There's a warm to cool going on, a light to dark thing going on as well. But let's take a moment to get this color and rotate through the hue saturation to see if there's a different color we like better. Just experiment. Maybe the background needs to be warmer. Let's see. That's kind of cool. I think it's probably a little too saturated. Probably just a little bit over there. Yeah. I'll say that's good enough for now. Okay. Yeah. All right, now we've got a new layer up here. Yep, that was a normal layer. Let's see about working with this a little more. This hood is kind of bothering me. It's an unusual shape for a hood. I feel like this is somebody who did not look up any hood references and just kind of drew it. I don't know why the fabric, or the leather, I guess in this case, would fold like that. That's an unusual way for fabric to fold. It would naturally fall down right there, not go up, because there's nothing actually pushing up against it to hold it up there. So just want that to show up a little bit more against that dark background. I'll pause here in a little bit just to look at whether you guys have questions about this process, but I'll keep going with this for a minute. All right, let's think about the shape here. Probably something more like, it's also like thinking about where the back of his head is. There's no reason for it to be higher than the back of his head, or really go further back than his head. So that means that that really needs to be brought in closer. That's not the one I need. This one. All right, I'm sorry I'm not talking as much because I am trying to think through this. He probably wants to obscure this guy's face, which honestly, that's not a bad idea. Let's play with that. Let's go along that line. But if his face is being in shadow, it's going to be a little cooler because it's only going to be lit by this cool light out here. It's going to be more of that tone. Let's say that that light is here. Get rid of my earlier line. But let's at least drop this down so that what we're having is I'm just thinking about this angle, like this lighting coming across here would actually put a lot of this face in shadow. What if we just shadowed the whole thing? Would that work? I don't know that you really need much light on that face at all. We could just have like part of the nose there, part of the chin catching some light, and then, you know, just right there in that section. Yeah, I'm happier with that. And then what we can have is some of the inside of this on the other side is catching light. You know, over here. Pause, take a look at your questions, and we'll keep going with the... I'm liking this image a lot for streams, so I do want to keep going with it, but I want to catch to see if you guys have any questions at the moment. Okay. Better late than never. Absolutely. Of course, I mean, it'll go up for viewing later just as a regular video. So if you want to catch parts that you missed, it'll be there. You can catch it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to be notified, you need to hit that notification, and it'll let you know when stream starts. Whose portfolio is being reviewed? This is Eric Viola. He randomly got the, randomly pulled up his portfolio from the list. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's get back to it. All right, I'm enjoying this, so hop back over here. Okay, so this I think works better with the face in shadow than in light, because the face being dark against the lit hood has a good value change there. I'll just dodge that, make that a little lighter. I would honestly want to pull up some references for the folds on this. Those don't feel right. And offhand, I'm not thinking of the right way to do those. That is not the layer I'm supposed to be on. Okay. I need to pull back. Okay, this guy's head is here, and we've got a weird thing going on. Like this guy's shoulder. Okay, his arm is like here, and his shoulder is like. All right, I need to put in some guidelines. There's something odd going on with the arrangement here. Okay, this guy's head is something like that, and his neck's coming down. Shoulders. His arms coming down here. It's like this. Yeah, that cloak really needs to be doing, this sort of thing. Yeah, okay. And then back here, there's really no reason why it's this far out. I'm talking about this cape back here because his arm is, the backside of his arm is right there. So it would naturally fall off the arm unless we added wind to it, which I think would be a good idea. So we can put in some trying to think. I want to like show the edge of the cape down there. Get an interesting shape out of it. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. And then I'll kind of justify the fact that it's being blown. And then it'll be the same sort of bluish tone back there. Now, either need to get the edge of that darker and come over, or the background needs to be darker and this needs to show up lighter. One or the other. And I think artistic license allows you to probably do either. And we can have some atmosphere in the bottom of the cloak. So it's not just one whole dark shape there. There's a little gradient to it. Never underestimate the power of gradations in your image. I think that's something really important to consider, is how much good that can do. Like, we're looking at a gradation of warm to cool. We're looking at a gradation of light to dark. Just adding gradations throughout the image can really help add interest and flow to the piece. And here, I want more consistent light, not just like a glow around everything. Right now that there's like this fuzzy edge on everything, I kind of want to get rid of that. That can basically go to a complete silhouette at the top, and that's okay. Everything doesn't have to be just fuzzy that way. Okay. So that's the sort of change that we're making there. Just really doubling down on the lighting that's working and the values that are working. I would suggest pulling up some references. We don't have time to go reference hunting right now, but figuring out how that would work would really help. Now I'm going to get a new linear dodge layer and get a deep orange. I think we probably want lighting coming out of that eye too. And we can add some glow just around the eyes because it would be lighting some of the other skin. And I'm going to push that a little more to the red side. Oops. Okay, I hit something, I'm not sure what it was. Oh, I'm quick mask. Okay. There we go, preview. Come on. Okay. Now, what's something else that you could consider like this is we're trying to make a connection between his magic from his eyes and the magic of his hands. Is we want to give some of the same magic effects. So we've got that here. Now let's add a similar thing up here where we've got like this. It's almost like fire threads, coming off of his eyes. So let's have that same sort of thing coming up out of the hands. Sorry. Don't like those. And make sure we have that same color down here on the sword. We wanted to have that. Maybe has like little lit eyes there and some spot or two up here that's glowing too. So that's there. If we want to make it consistent, we can have that as the accent color throughout the piece. And maybe there's, you know, something about this. Let's see. Like just inside of the ring of this thing. Maybe there's a, you know, glow here. Just so it kind of keys that together. But let's shift it more to the red. Dull it down just a little bit. Yeah. And these need to be shifted slightly more to the red side too. They're just coming up very yellow. We can brighten them though. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and flip the image horizontal and kind of get a fresh view at it, see if something else strikes us. I think that's feeling better. I'm happier with that. Okay. We could add more atmosphere, like if we wanted to soften. Wrong layer. If we wanted to soften that out a little bit, almost like there's some fog. Do that. And we can also do the same down here, just adding a bit of atmosphere there. The metal is kind of bothering me right now. Let's see if we can't fix that a little bit. Usually metal takes a while to get right, but let's give it an attempt here. The underside is going to be lit by the blue light and the cool light. And it's going to be rounding away. It's going to have the pure tone right there on the edge from the magic. Add some variations in that. Most of this scene is dark, so you can think of armor like a mirror, reflective armor like a mirror. It's going to take on the color of whatever's around it. So we can have that. Pick up some of these blue lights and just want to hit the side of like the skull thing. No, I don't want to compromise the value of that. We can add some blues in there without compromising the value. And then up here, we can just have really bright spots of color right where it's catching that light. All right. I'm gonna hit up a couple of spots here for. I'm just kind of thinking about now that we're relighting it. We want to make the lighting a little more consistent across all of it. Like I said before, the other fellow's artwork, he wasn't really thinking about how they all relate to each other. And now I'm trying to establish some of the forms. Now this is very rough, but yeah, there we go. That's okay. And down here we can have some of the green cooler light, but let's make it like an underlighting that's hitting some of these horns and stuff. So it's catching all the underside of everything. All this top part's going to get more shaded. And it feels like maybe that tabard needs some sort of design on it. Something that just kind of mimics the other stuff going on here. He has like a skull design and just doing some sort of design. Yep. I'm going to play this up a little bit more. Start with that more warm light, just really bursting out from around that hand. Yeah. You know, I added the atmosphere there earlier, but I don't think I like it. I think that really should just be darker. I think the value would really help make that pop. Since I lightened the background here, I removed some of the black that was up there because I want the black to be on the character on that silhouette, so that silhouette is stronger. And if I'm going to do that, then I also want to make this a little stronger too. I'll let that become more black and silhouetted. There is some atmosphere here, so I don't want to soften it out, but I can still reach that darkness though. Maybe that blade is catching some of the green light at the bottom, so it can shine up, and then the other parts can be dark around it. This can all just kind of fade silhouette there. Let's rotate it back. All right, so I think that's pretty good. We can probably stop there. It's almost 8 o'clock already. Gone a bit longer than I thought it would, but I think there's some good elements going on. I mean, look back and forth. Now, if he wants this shape to the hood, then he can go with that, but let's look at some of the ways this would fold. You know, if he wanted to stay with that overall shape, then I think we probably need to have some folds that are like going into itself, you know, doing this sort of thing, where it keeps doing that. But this still looks odd, this, you know, shape to it. Basically, there's nothing supporting it in any of that area, unless you show me a piece of a big armor. Like if you show me a big armor piece right there, and this is just going over top part of that armor, then it makes me think that maybe it could be held out there by that big armor piece like that. But if not, then we probably want to go with something more like what I have there. The lighting, glowing eyes look better if they're surrounded by shadows, so we put shadow around the eyes, and they look better there. We're going for a light against dark up here at the top, and then we're going dark against light down here at the bottom, using a more simplified color scheme where it's warm to cool, and using more reflection with the armor, so we have like really bright lights here. It's picking up the blue lights and the shadows, and just using the warm as accent down here on the bottom. Yeah. Well, okay, let's take one last look here at the stream, if there's any last questions, and we'll wrap up here in just a minute. We're good. Yeah, no, I can't figure out how to get on the Wi-Fi. So I was going to have my iPad looking at the chat so I could keep up with the chat over here, but no, I don't. Only have the one monitor, and when I have Photoshop up, I can't see the chat. So let's take a look. Yeah, time just flies by. I said I wasn't going to do 2 hours, but there we go. Unless you're a personal friend of his, he might be able to text on and check your window. Were you guys not being able to see the Paintover for some reason? Why would you not be able to see the Paintover? I don't know. Have you stream on your phone for chat? I have really crappy connection here, and I can't stream. I can hardly check my messages on my phone. You're seeing the speed pad. I don't know why it didn't transfer. That's weird because I had to transfer it back. Yeah, all right, well, I'm gonna get get this figured out one day. Yeah, well, I don't have a second screen. It's just an iMac. So, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'll flip over. You can take a look at the picture. Okay, I'll move that out of the way. Okay, you can see this, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is where we're at. This is where we started. And simplifying the color scheme so that it's more, and not just every color everywhere, but being a little more choosy about which colors. And you could go back and reestablish some of these magic effects. There's nothing wrong with the magic effects. I was just having to paint in the background and they kind of get lost there. In fact, we could take a second to do that. We've got the linear dodge layer there. And could just grab some colors and put some of those back in. And I think that they need to change in tone as they get up to the top so that they get warmer. And it kind of blends into the color scheme at this top part. But then down here, we can still have the cooler versions of it. And I kind of like almost this wispiness. There's kind of like these little fiery magic coming off of his hands, off of his eyes, and then it's sort of circling around him. And it gives a good motion to the scene, so we can have that sort of stuff going on. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the sort of change we're looking at. Using the silhouette over here, and then the light here. And instead of just keeping the same overall light, look for opportunities where you can silhouette stuff. Make stuff dark against a lighter background. Yeah. All right, sorry about that glitch, guys. I didn't realize it didn't flip over, but thank you so much for joining me, and we will do it again next week. Now, next week, I will probably have the cube brush giveaway again, but I have to confirm that with them. Otherwise, I will be doing a giveaway of one of my own items, so one of my own videos or ebooks. So you won't be able to tune into that unless you hear otherwise. It will be next Monday at 6 p.m., probably about 2 hours. That seems to be what we're doing. So thanks again. Until you see you next time, keep drawing.